Today is the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and this reflection is on Jeremiah chapter 23, 1-6, and our gospel today, Mark 6, 30-34. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to my channel right below, and you could also say you like this by clicking that as well. Thank you. Behold, the days are coming when I will raise up a shoot to David. He shall reign and govern rightly. Today's first reading from the prophet Jeremiah, who lived 600 years before Christ, is prophesying in God's name that a true shepherd will take care, guide, and feed the flock of Israel in the same way that David did when he lived some 400 years before Jeremiah. We know of King David, a great leader, the one who conquered the land, the one who united the kingdom, the one who set out to build the temple. It would be his son Solomon who ultimately constructed the temple. But we sometimes forget that David began his life as a shepherd. When David was called and anointed by the prophet Samuel to be the future king of Israel, to take the place of Saul, the first king, David was out working in the fields, caring for the sheep. And so we have this image as a shepherd, the one who is the leader of Israel. David's first task, as we probably all remember from Sunday school, was to defeat the giant Goliath, and he used only a rock in a slingshot. From that moment on, David was hailed as a great warrior. He alone could defeat the Philistines when the army of Israel could not. David was also a poet, and so we have the gift of his poetry in the Psalms that we read each Sunday. And perhaps the most beloved and well-known of the Psalms is the one we just read together, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. We associate the role of shepherd with Jesus, who called himself the Good Shepherd. Jesus described himself as a shepherd unlike those of the past, who shepherded Israel for their own benefit and not for that of the people. Jeremiah foresaw the day when finally God would send the true Good Shepherd, descended from David, his father, to inherit the kingdom, to take on that role of shepherding the people of Israel, as well as the one to finally defeat evil and rule as king over the people in peace, in justice, and in security. Isn't that what every nation wants? A true leader to care for the people as a shepherd cares for his sheep. We know a shepherd uses a stick to guide or sometimes coerce the sheep. But Jesus said he uses his voice. The sheep hear his voice and they follow him. Our gospel today fulfills the prophecy of Jeremiah when Mark, our gospel reader, paints for us the image of a group of people in a deserted place who were like sheep without a shepherd. And so Jesus feels compassion for them. He pities them, and so he teaches them. How thankful we should be to be members of the flock of Jesus. How thankful we should be that we have Jesus as our shepherd. For the only thing we have to do is follow the voice of Jesus. He is the good shepherd of the sheep. He will take care of the rest. He will provide good pasture. He will protect us from harm. He will lead us to flowing streams. He will rescue us if we go astray. Yes, that is right. The sheep only need to follow the shepherd. and will be assured of his care. Unlike other animals who have to go out and hunt for their food, or like the squirrels who have to collect food and then hide it for the wintertime, the sheep only have to follow the shepherd, and he will provide. And the sheep will be safe in the corral the shepherd builds, for he has set up a secure place for his sheep to rest, so that no wolf can steal the sheep from the shepherd. I once walked the way of St. James 11 years ago, and very early in the morning, as the sun was just coming up, and I was just beginning my daily walk that day of about 15 miles, I came upon a large sheep corral filled with sheep who had entered the night before because they followed their shepherd, and they were safe that evening until the morning when I saw them. It was dawn, and the sun was only just rising when I walked by. Inside the corral with its high walls of protection must have been some 100 sheep and lambs. But outside the corral, there were a few stragglers who did not get into the corral the evening before and were forced to stay that night outside after the shepherd had gone home to bed. When I saw those few stragglers who were outside all night long, they were crying and bleating out as if to say, "Let me in." But they were outside, stuck outside the corral all night, hoping that no wolf came along. I thought of the Last Judgment, when some were safe inside and some were outside crying, "Lord, Lord, let me in." Let us never get into that situation, not to heed the voice of the shepherd, to be left out of the corral in the night with its many dangers for all eternity. Let us listen and follow the voice of Jesus, knowing that he not only knows the way, he is the way and the life for his flock, of whom we are joyful to be members.